Hello everyone and welcome to a brand new playthrough on this channel with Alzroy Galcon. This is Motorsport Manager 3, the mobile version, and the goal of this game and the goal of this playthrough is to create a brand new racing team and make that racing team all the way into the highest tier of motorsport in this game, which is called the World Motorsport. Anyway, let's get to it. And here we are at the character creation screen, and now what I'm going to do is basically create my own character, and let's see the end results. So here we are after creating my own character, and now what I'm going to do next is choose a backstory. So be aware that once you have chose a brand new backstory for your character, you cannot come back and then re-choose for a completely different one. And in this particular playthrough, I'm going to choose the X driver, and each of them has their own benefits, and I'm going to explain it just a bit. Now let's take a look at the tiers of motorsports in this game. So that's tier 1, that's the World Motorsport, that's the place where we wanted to go. However, if we start right there at the very top, then we'll have absolutely no chance on beating our opponents. So we are going to start at the very bottom. And fun fact, you can actually take a look at the rules to decide which competition that you wanted to enter. And each competition have their own separate rules, so choose carefully, because if you choose the wrong options, then you need to spend an entire year on that competition. And now we are going to start our journey at the open wheel sprint, the one of the two options in the tier 4 category of motorsport. Now we can actually customize our racing car, and fun fact, you don't need to spend a lot of time here, and you can actually choose to randomize or you want to customize it yourself. So I'm going to customize my racing car, and let's see the result. So after tinkering for quite a while, here's my racing car and also the racing team. That's the one thing that I forgot to mention. You can actually name your racing team in the customization as well. And now here we are at the tutorial in this particular game. Welcome to Motorsport Manager. When you're now in charge of your own motorsport team, develop your car, hire drivers, staff, and improve our HQ to become the world's best racing team, and that's basically the main goal. And last but not least, creating a car that could beat every other competitors in the competition that we are currently registered into. So now the game teaches us about creating new parts. So in this game, creating new parts is very important to stay competitive. And that applies not only just to the open wheel series that we are currently registered into, but also to every single competition that we registered in this game. Now the new front wing has been built. Now it's time to give this brand new parts into one of our two drivers. So we are definitely going to throw away the old parts and replacing it with the new ones. And yeah, so every single component takes either 1 week or 2 weeks to create. So the front wing there that we just made takes 1 week to create, but because it's a tutorial, then the game just instantly accomplishes it for us. So now welcome to part development. And number 1, build parts. Building a new part is the most cost-effective way to upgrading your car. And we can also upgrade our car by using the marketplace, but I will not recommend going to there unless you are trying to find and purchase new modifications for your car. The simplest reason why is because purchasing new parts from the marketplace can be really expensive, and later on in the game you will soon find out that it's much cheaper to create your own parts rather than purchasing new parts. Yeah, so now we are creating our very first component in our car. It's the new front wing because the game basically told us to do so. And yeah, that's the build parts and the part marketplace. And yeah, maybe you should check out the part marketplace and see if we got any kind of modification. And we do. It's about the brakes modification, which is the one that I recommend the most. You purchase mods rather than buying the parts straight away in the marketplace because they're so expensive, just like I said, especially in the early game where you don't have a lot of money to spend and there are more things more important to spend on. And just like the parts that you make, or even if you're buying one, the mods, you have to choose which driver to get. However, you can do swap parts within your primary driver and the secondary driver that you have. And yeah, I'll talk about the primary driver and secondary driver. So primary driver is your primary driver. This is your main driver. Your focus will be on that guy or that girl, and the second driver is basically your backup in case that your first driver actually got a problem, for example crash or mechanical failure, and that way you are still be able to score some points. And the worst scenario is obviously both of them didn't finish the race, which is going to be a very bad news for me. So that car performance doesn't mean that our driver will be like at the third place by the end of the race or like 14th at the end of the race. It's all about their skills and my management of their tires and fuels and so forth to make them finish as best as possible. And now here we are taking a look for the next year's regulation in open wheel sprint. So you can actually choose if you want to agree with the rules, or you don't want to the rules to be changed, or you wanted to abstain, so you don't mind the change and let the other teams decide whether that change is going to be implemented next year or not. So let's talk about influence. So influence is basically one of the two currencies in this game, with the first one being the money. So influence is for if you want to do sneaky things, such as you want to bend the rules and you wanted a driver from the higher tiers to join you at the lower tier. But I can also change the rulings for the next season, just like you see in the regulation change next year in the GMA button. So at the end of each season there will be a rule change, and I can force my rule change into that particular rule change, and that will be a guaranteed pass. And the way that you get influence is by signing sponsorship that has influence as their bonus. And last but not least, it's the cash itself. So for sponsorship, I will talk about sponsorship a little bit later, but now I'm going to introduce you to two other key components into the team, which is the engineer and the mechanics. So the engineers are the people who are designing and creating your stuff, and they can also be during the race, give them boost, although I never see how this boost actually works, but there you go. And last but not least are the mechanics. So the mechanics are the people who are finding the setup to your cars and setting it to the perfect condition for the track that you are currently racing in. And mechanic themselves have what I call it the mechanic skill points. So the skill points are basically the maximum amount is 20, and the bigger the number, the bigger changes that they did in order to make the car like really good and or even a perfect condition in the track that you are currently racing in. And last but not least, each mechanic has a relationship to each driver, and once that relationship reaches 100%, they will unlock a second buff for me to choose just before the race actually starts. And to find a brand new mechanic, I have to use influence, or sometimes the game will just give me a brand new mechanic to be choose. And to find a brand new mechanic, you need to use influence, and that also applies to the engineers as well. I do not know if there is a cap in time to accept the brand new mechanic or the engineers into the team, but so far I haven't found it yet. So yeah, now let's talk about headquarters. So the headquarters is basically the place where we develop our racing team. So it goes from financial to the driver and also developing the parts in order to be competitive in the race. So for example, I can improve the driver, or I can improve the financial, and I can also improve the development in parts like, for example, the suspension, the brakes, all that sort of stuff. And under the GMA icon, you can actually take a look at the rules and also the next year's regulation change. And yeah, pretty much says this, but I just want to keep that in mind for the viewer. So my plan for expanding the headquarters is to get more money, and the way you get more money is investing your money into the financial sector. That way we could get better sponsorship deals, and also the factory generates income for every race. So in the early part of this playthrough, you will see me having close to no money because I need to expand my headquarters, but also I have to spend some money to develop the parts for my drivers to be competitive as well. Now let's take a look at the race series calendar. So every race series has their own calendar. In case of open wheel sprint, we have 5 races, and there is one there called invitational event, and I will talk to it a little bit more when we go into the invitational event episodes a bit later. And you can also change your racing team and the color anytime that you like, and this will have no cost whatsoever, unlike the PC version. If you want to change the color, it will cost you like $500,000, which is quite expensive if I'm being honest. But yeah, so everything for now has been said and done. Now let's take a look at a bunch of messages for the drivers, the teams, and also the media as well. And I will believe it is like Twitter or so, because everyone starts at the icon. And yeah, let's just move on into the main event. And oh, it looks like it's going to be yet another week before we actually start the event. But anyway, here's the part build completed. We built another front wing, and I'm going to put it on our first driver, but I'll let the second driver take the previous parts from the first driver. So I destroy the bad part, and yeah. And here's the main breakdown for the car itself. So the main breakdown is basically has 3 sections. That's the aerodynamics and the mechanic and also the drivability. Think of these 3 as separate buffs that you can get, and depending on how good or how bad the car actually is. Now, as you can see, our driver is like the second best, and the car is like also the second best, but our staff is actually quite bad, like 8 on the 10th teams that are competing in this particular competition. So yeah, at some point we have to replace some of these staffs into a better one, and the new candidates that we have currently isn't very good, so at least one of them. So I'm going to reject the offer from the one of these candidates, and I'm going to replace one of my staffs into a brand new, slightly better staff. But you know, she's still terrible, especially like in the early part of the game where you don't have a lot of money to hire a very good staff. But yeah, everything is finished for now, and now let's move on into the main event, the race itself. But before we begin, let's talk about the sponsors that we have in this game. So the sponsors in this game has 2 categories. The first category is sponsors who pays us every race, and the second part is the sponsors who pay for us if we meet their goals. So as you can see here, Luxi now wants us to be finished at least in the 14th place or above, and if we finish above them, then in either qualifying or in the race, they will give us money. But if in case that we doesn't end up above 14th place or above, like below like 15th place or 16th place, and sort of like that, they will not pay us. So be very careful on which sponsors that you want to select just before the race, because it might make a difference between you get the money and you did not get the money. So yeah, Belgian Ardennes GP, here we go. In our very first race, the debut race, so hopefully we will get a really good result. And considering the fact that we have a really good car, so I'm quite confident, so I choose the middle sponsor instead of the left sponsor. And I'm trying not to be too confident, so I'm not choosing the right option. So yeah, qualifying. We have given 10 minutes to find the setup for the car to set the fastest lap. So here's what we are going to do. So there are a bunch of cards that we need to choose, and each card has a cost. And if you look at the bottom there, there's called the mechanic skill level. That's basically our currency. And in this particular part, we have spent pretty much everything. So the only options left is to let the driver set the fastest time. And each mechanic, as I said earlier, has a different level in terms of what can do. It can be like either 6, or that's like the least amount of the mechanic skill level, and the highest is 20. And the higher the amount of mechanic skill level, the more things that you can do in order to set up the perfect car for that particular track. And also it will take less time to do so. So our main goal in this particular part is to reach 100% in terms of setup. If we reach 100%, that means the car is fully set up for that particular track and the mechanic cannot do anymore. So it's up to the drivers to set up the fastest time possible. Now we are watching our drivers doing a qualifying lap. Hopefully we will achieve a really good result. And we can take a look at each driver's attempt to do so by clicking on their faces. There's like the 7th place and the 5th place, and oh, our second driver set up the second fastest time. And what about our first driver? Oh, he sets up the fastest time. We are currently in 1st place, and it looks like this our second driver has dropped down into 3rd place. So what an amazing qualifying result that we have for now. And last but not least, I can actually speed up to fast motion, so to see the driver come back to the pit. And yeah, I'm going to use this quite a lot, and especially when, oh my god, that's a disaster. Oh no, that's bad. That can happen when you don't have enough mechanic skill level. That's actually pretty bad, and our progress goes down instead of up. So yeah, the mechanic can fail in terms of setting up the cars, and as a result the game punishes you for it. There is an improvement where you can have another options, because we only have 2 options instead of 3, but because this is our very first race, that option is still out of reach for us. And there is also an improvement where it lowers the chance of getting a number where the mechanic skill level is not enough for the requirement. So for example, I need to modify the engine and it costs like 19 points, but I only have 18 points in terms of mechanic skill level. And what it does, it is lowers the chance that the game will give me 19 mechanic skill level points that is required to do so, or which obviously it makes the entire thing fail, and that improvement basically lowers the chance of that ever happening, but not entirely to 0 though. And I'm really sorry if my voice is very silent, very low in this particular part. That is because in the settings of this game, the only option is to turn the sound and the sound effect off and on, and I cannot adjust how loud the voice will be. So yeah, sorry about that. And as the time finally sets to 0, and then, oh my god, look at that, what amazing results of qualifying. Our main driver sits at the pole positions. By the way, pole positions means it's on the 1st place, and our second driver sits at the 3rd place. So yeah, what an amazing qualifying results for us. I severely underestimate the capabilities of my car. They can definitely go for the top spot of the podium, and hopefully let's keep it that way as this race progresses. So yeah, let's take a look at the starting grid. So our driver sits at the 1st and 3rd place. We have 20 drivers in this race, and let's make sure that our sponsors quota are met, which is we need to finish a 9th place or higher. And so far we definitely achieved that on the qualifying part, and now let's do that on the race. So yeah, this is what I'm talking about earlier. You can actually choose the buffs that the mechanic can actually give you during the race, or if you did not like the buff, or in some cases the buff doesn't match the requirement of the track, then you could actually increase their relationship and make it faster to make it all the way into 100%, which makes another buff available to choose. And because this is a manager strategy game, the game is all about strategizing and how to make sure that your car finishes well ahead of your competitors. Anyway, it's 5 red lights onto the Ardence GP, and our very first race on this team commences. And as we go through the first corner, our first driver Maulana is still in the lead. David, our second driver, is still battling in third and fourth place, and she's currently in fourth place. She goes down and claims another third place, and she goes down again. She's definitely battling against the crowd on the very front of the pack, and Maulana still holds on into the first place as we go around into the back section of the track. And Maulana still holds on into the first place as we come back around into the starting line on start lap 2. So far no one crashed, which is a good thing, and by the way, we can crash, but then also the AI can crash as well, and that's one of the ways that the drivers retire from the race. The other way is to have a mechanical failure, and during the race I can issue commands to the drivers. So I can prioritize the progress of the first driver, the second driver, or the last option, which I choose all the time, is to let both drivers race as hard as possible. During the race, there are a couple of things that I need to pay attention. The first one is the condition of the tires, and the second one is the commands that I can give to the drivers in terms of their driving style, the engine modes, and last but not least, the weather. And I will talk about the weather in the next episode, because in this first race, aka the tutorial race, the situation, the weather is going to be sunny all the time. So weather is something that I should not pay attention too much, although in the next race, in the next episode, it is going to matter a lot. And back to the race itself, and Maulana is still holding on into first place, and our second driver still holds on into 5th place. She's lost a couple of positions, but 5th place is still a good position. It still met our quota. 11 laps remaining, and looks like some drivers are decided to pit. And at some point in the race, we are going to do a pit stop as well. But we are not going to do that right now because our tire condition is still at a decent condition, and the fuel, well, it might still on the minus side, but I can fix that once I told the drivers to go conservatively. So yeah, if you like this kind of content, then be sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe, and don't forget to ring the bell so you won't miss out anything that I put on this channel. Everything is free, you don't need to pay, and by subscribing you make this channel grow and flourish even more, which makes me happy so I can create more content for you to watch. Anyway, that's the condition part of the tutorial. I have to keep paying attention to that, and also by clicking the driver, or in case of mobile I press the driver, it makes the camera follow the driver. And I can also adjust the camera by adjusting the camera button, that's the top left of the screen, but in this particular condition I'm not going to adjust it because I'm still needing to look at the film, like the entire film, to decide what I'm going to do. So now I'm going to conserve the fuel to make sure that we still have some fuel all the way until the very end of the race. And it looks like our tire is about to go into 0%. Currently it's on 30%, so I'm told the drivers to go conservatively on the tires to make it as long as possible, because in this particular race we are going to do only one pit stop, so I hope it's going to do well. And by the way, it looks like David, our third driver, is claiming back third place, so yeah, I don't know when that happens, but yeah, congratulations for her. And it looks like she needs to pit first. And oh yeah, by the way, there's one more thing that I need to say about doing a pit stop. You cannot stack on top of each other because a pit stop only allows for one car, and I cannot have both of my cars doing pit stop at the same time. That's the biggest mistake that I could do in this game. Now it's almost time for our second driver to do a pit stop, and because the tires almost at 20%, that's the time where by default the drivers will complain. So I'm not going to do pit stop right now. What I'm going to do instead is to let the driver push the tires all the way until it's almost zero, and then we do the pit stop. And in this lap she's going to come in and change the tires. Well, now let's look at Maulana here. He's still in first place, so and he's actually leading by quite some margin, 5 seconds, and I think at some point he leads by like 7 seconds or even more. I didn't pay attention about the statistic in the race, its lifetime speed as well. So yeah, 20%, and this is the moment where, there you go, he complains about the tires, but I'm not going to do pit stop on him right now, so I'm just going to tell him to push the tires even more, and this is the lap where he will come to the pit and then change the tires. And before the pit stop actually starts, you can tell the pit crew member, to change the tire and to also repair the car in case if the condition is really bad. And last but not least, you can also tell the crew member to do a refueling. But sadly, in this particular competition, there is no refueling because the refueling is banned. But yeah, it's our time to our main driver to go into the pits, and I really do hope that he lost as little amount of position as possible. So let's see where he ended up, and he comes out in 4th place. Okay, we are still in contention to win this race in our very first debut, and that's the goal that I wanted to happen. And looks like he already battles for the 3rd place as he goes around into the outside to the inside, and still has a 4th, but I think he's going to take this position by the end of this lap. So yep, he takes 3rd, there you go, before the end of this lap. And yeah, 3rd position, and we are still in lap 11 out of 14, so 4 more laps to go, because it also counts as like the final lap, the 14th lap. And now back to our second driver, who is still in 6th place after all of those battlings right at the front. And yeah, she's really doing quite well, considering she's only like a 1-star driver. That meant our car must be really good. And our first driver, Maulana, is already claimed the 1st place yet again. Oh, he is definitely one quick driver, and he already built some gaps into the 1st and 2nd place. 4.1 second, that meant our car must be really quick with this particular track, or either we got the setup the most correct compared to every other competitors. And it looks like our second driver has reached the 5th place. So she starts in 3rd place and now she's at 5th place. We lost 2 positions, but it's still fine. We still met the quota even if the first primary driver retires right now. And yeah, let's just hope that she managed to hold on or even take 4th or even 3rd position. And a new fastest lap has just been recorded, 1 minute 36 second, 0.738. We are not too concerned at this moment because the fastest lap is still in 12th place. And yeah, looks like she's still, she's about to fight against the 4th place. Can we actually take 4th place as we go into the last lap? So now it's time to let this car go as fast as possible. So go for it, guys, go for it. And look at the gap between the 1st and the 2nd place. It's 8 seconds. Oh my god. We must have a really good car, or either that we really nailed the setup, but I don't think that during qualifying we reached 100%, which means the perfect setup for the car. But anyway, look at Maulana. He's about to enter the final sector and finish this race in 1st place. And looks like we have to conserve the fuel a little bit. But anyway, Maulana takes the win, and our very first win in this open wheel sprint competition. And David, our second driver, managed to get 4th place. Okay, this is a nice way to start our season. 1st and 4th place, and not bad at all. Even I will say this is one of the best results that we could achieve. And there you go, that's our very successful debut on this particular competition. 1st place, and we met the quota. Both of our drivers meet the quota. So 3rd place is an Indian guy, 2nd is a Britishman, but for us is Indonesian, who takes the 1st place in this particular race. And hopefully let's keep it that way as we go on into the 2nd race, and that will be on the next episode. So here comes the other championships in this game, and we don't need to worry too much about this. But one thing is for certain, that we are going into the World Motorsport, and that is the highest tier, and that's the main goal, just like I said at the start of this particular video. and we gained $538,000, which is really helpful in terms of the current condition of our money. Anyway, here's the supplier network. So this supplier network is a mechanic in the game that buff us in races. And first we have to choose our starting point. We could choose in United States, Europe, or China. And each of them has their own advantages and disadvantages. So for example, the United States, we are allowed to expand quite quickly, but then once we got into the middle part, it will be quite hard for us to expand. And we go into China means that we are more focusing towards the long-term process. And since we are going to do planning things on the long term, and then we are going to start in China. And anyway, in Europe, basically, if we want to start climbing up very quickly on the ladder, but the problem is it's very expensive to expand upon. So that is the reason why I'm using China. And the way we obtain the relationship within the various companies around the supply chain network is we have to contact them, and then we have to wait for a couple of races in order to manage to establish a relationship, and that relationship basically stays permanent throughout the entire game. You can also establish the relationship quite quickly by using the influence, but the problem is I'm still farming for influence just in case that we need things in the future that requires one. So yeah, now we can actually improve our driver, because apparently our first driver is still being capable to grow even further. And in my experience, if we put points on the focus part, it meant that the driver will less likely to have a crash, and that's quite important for us to actually finish races. And also personality and trait. So personality is a buff that stays permanent or debuff within a driver, and traits are a buff that is temporary. And that's basically the only difference between those two. And it looks like many people are interested into joining our team after our very first win. Look at that, 54 people are interested to joining our team. But yeah, so far we are not accepting any of those. But at the end of the season, I might consider it. One of the drivers are going to replace, and I think most likely it's going to be David here, because she has reached the maximum potential. And looks like I have to replace one of the mechanics there, because during the qualifying we got a bad hand. And yeah, anyway, that's it for me for this particular episode. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Alzurai Galcon, signing it off, and I'll see you on the next episode of Motorsport Manager 3 Mobile. Take care and bye bye.